Hello and welcome to this week's Whole Week Costa. For Kev, I'm Jay. Today we're going to be talking about episodes 13 and 14 of Season 3 of Star Wars Clone Wars. The titles are Monster and Witches of the Mist. Kev, you want to start us off with Monster?
When Count Dooku calls upon the Nightsisters seeking a replacement for Ventress, she and her kin seize the opportunity to exact revenge. Ventress visits the far side of Dathomir and the males of the planet, seeking the most brutal and powerful warrior among them. Talzin has Asajj secretly select a warrior from the distant Nightbrother village Savage Opress. With the power of dark magic, Talzin transforms Savage into a hulking warrior ultimately loyal to Asajj. She then delivers Opress to Dooku, where he will serve as his secret Sith apprentice in a plot to overthrow Darth Sidious.
So if we bunch these two episodes in, because it's the second and third part of the first episode from last week, there's a lot of death in this, like actual characters, not just clone troopers.
There really is. These episodes are pretty brutal. This one, obviously, he kills his brother at the end of the episode, which, I mean, I guess is not unexpected, but it's still, it's not something you really, I don't know. I don't know. It was still a little bit shocking, even though it wasn't expected, or though it wasn't unexpected.
And before that, Ventress trains these guys up, and she kills like 5 or 6 guys like with blades in the dark. Like, she is very brutal. Like, she could just go kill Dooku. She doesn't need to trick Dooku.
Yeah, I kind of wish for Savage they had defined. So I mean, I think they kind of say it at some point, but I feel like I don't know. I would have liked a minute with like him and his brother Farrell just to build that up a little bit, because it's, I don't know, when he's like protecting him, like, you don't know, like, are they related? Is that like his lover? Like it, and I mean, those things sort of hit differently. Like, I mean, protecting your childhood, we're not. I mean, he would always be your brother, but like protecting your brother that you were raised with since you were children has a different feel than protecting someone you're dating. Like just emotionally for the viewers. So they really didn't define the relationship well. And then at some point they said that he called him brother, but like, we hear the clone troopers call each other brother. Like, that doesn't mean necessarily like you were raised together biological brother. And then I don't know. It just I needed a minute with the two of them.
If you look at it, I think like that guy, the guy he's protecting, because they're basically brothers, Night Brothers, I would say. Yeah, they're Night Brothers, and I believe like he would be like the runt of the litter, basically. So like he protected that, and like had like a fond affection, like a for him. So that's how I described it. That he's the runt, he's protecting him, and like he knows he can't go kill Dooku. He knows it.
Well, I think that makes sense, but then also like then why would he even be selected for those trials unless Ventress knew that he was going to end up, that Savage was going to be picked, and then they just pre-picked him as like the test there. But I don't know. I didn't get the impression that she did think that far ahead. Like,
yeah, I think it's just she picked whoever just to show how brutal she can be and how brutal she wants them to be.
Also, I think we had to talk about his name, because I don't know. I think they pay pretty close attention to names in here, and I mean, this one's a little over the head. I mean, they call him Savage, but it's Savage Opress.
Opress. I was going to bring that up. Yeah, his name is Savage Opress, and his brother, we find out later, is Darth Maul. So
yeah, yeah, it's a little over the top with the names. And then it's in this one. Yeah, it's in this one that they go to Deveron and kill those 2 Jedi. Interesting thing about that, which I didn't realize during the episode, but and this is where Dave Filoni is beloved in Star Wars in general, because he really cares. So Delta Squad are popular from one of the video games, and apparently I didn't even notice, honestly, watching the episode. They appear in this episode briefly, and essentially Dave Filoni asked whoever wrote the episode, like, hey, I want to put Delta Squad in this from from one of the games to like make them officially canon. So so that's like a cool thing. Like they really didn't need to be in this. They didn't add to the story. He just wanted to like make sure they were canon since the games are now like legends, or at least those ones are. So that's just another like love for Star Wars sort of thing on his end.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is these next two, this episode and the next one are very brutal, but like overall, I still don't, you kind of fit like into, you see how it's the Clone Wars that Darth Sidious is like, oh, together, or sorry,
Dooku.
Count Dooku, sorry, Count Dooku. You kind of see how it fits in. He goes, we could just outpower Darth Sidious. Like, I think like he's going to take over for Darth Sidious, and then, but it still doesn't relate to the Clone Wars. It's just a day in the life of Count Dooku.
Yeah. I feel between these two episodes, there are a whole lot of great lines that would be like, that would be like on Star Wars memes, like that you could like post places. And the one in the beginning of this was like it was like an everywhere meme. It was the Night Mother said about finding a man on the other side of the planet that men are easy to acquire and hard to control. I feel like that's a real.
Yeah, I like that.
I feel like that's a real life equivalent statement.
Yeah, it is like, like if you even just look at just simple as the dating scene, like any woman could pick up any man, but like the man's like, well, as long as there's another woman, like I'm gonna go after that one too.
Yeah. And then the other one, which I feel like is, I don't know, there's so many good dark side quotes in here. I would guess if you looked up Dooku quotes, I would guess like a chunk of them come from these episodes. Because the other one he said is, hate will feed you, never sympathize with the enemy, not even for a moment. I feel like that's a current US politics line. I feel like we bring up sometimes. I don't know, which is real unfortunate.
And we'll get to it in a minute, but in Witches of the Mist, Savage asked for forgiveness, and he goes, that that's not part of the dark side.
Yeah.
I forget the line exactly, but it was such a badass line.
Hey, you want to move on to Witches of the Mist?
Yeah, it was just really the whole episode for Monster was just basically a training montage, and then you see Savage kill a couple of Jedi, and they're like, he's ready, So, but yeah, Kev, you want to give the description of Witches of the Mist?
Yeah, I can't think of who the YouTuber is that says it, but he has these longer form episodes, and he always says to grab a drink and a snack. Grab a drink and a snack before this episode description. Anakin and Obi-Wan, sent to track down the mysterious figure behind the deaths of several Jedi, soon find themselves on the trail of the monstrous apprentice that Ventress has created, Asajj Opress, who has been trained in the ways of the Sith by Dooku. Dooku sends Opress to Toydaria to capture Count Dooku. The monstrous apprentice clashes with the Jedi, and to the course of the battle he kills the king. Opress returns to Dooku's flagship, having failed his master. It is then that Ventress strikes, with Opress at her side against Dooku. A three-way battle for dark side supremacy ends with Dooku triumphant, Ventress fleeing, and the disillusioned Savage abandoning his loyalty to the Sith. He returns to Mother Talzin, who gives him a new task, to seek the Outer Rim for his long-lost brother.
Yeah. So if anybody in these two episodes I feel bad for, it is definitely Savage Opress, because he starts off as like a pretty like even keel tribal leader, and then he has to like defend his friend, and then he gets mind controlled, and like they give him like force powers, he grows, and then he has to kill his friend. And then it's all a ruse to take over Dooku. And he's like, well, I'm loyal to Dooku. And then Ventress comes in and she's like, you're supposed to kill Dooku. And like Dooku betrays him. And then Ventress betrays him. And then he comes back. He's like, oh, what do I do now? After being shot up, like you kind of really feel bad for this character.
Yeah, he's kidnapped. They make him kill his brother. Yeah, then he's just a pawn by multiple people. And yeah, he was just a guy. Like, I don't know. I think it shows... it shows too, because we actually get to see his backstory. You know, that you don't really know where any of these characters are coming from unless we do specifically know. You know, I mean, any of these good or bad guys can have, you know, can have pretty reasonable backstories, and you can see how they got to how they are. I mean, I think everyone thinks like, oh, I would never do that, or oh, I'm not a bad person, but like, I don't know. I mean, it's a sequence of events in your life that lead you to be a good or bad person. You know, it's not always. I mean, it is a conscious choice, but you know, your frame of mind and making certain choices are really important. And we see this here. We see this. We see that with Ventress too. You know, we saw previously how she got to where she is. That she actually was a Jedi, and then you know had enough tragedy in her life that she was taken over by the dark side.
Right. And you kind of see this guy as like a murderer because he murders like two Jedi and murders a bunch of clone troopers and he murders his brother. But you're like, oh man, if you kind of like cut out the witch part, you're like, how does this get from here? And then you realize, oh, witches, and that's a good enough explanation in any media. Well, how's he evil now? Witches, gotcha.
Well, I think what's really good about Star Wars that makes it like a little bit simpler, you know, where you can have these complex characters, but then also they don't become too complex or they're sort of hard to identify with, is that, you know, in real life, I mean, you just talk about morality, but in Star Wars you have, you know, you have the Force and you have an actual dark side, which is, you know, this sort of counterpart that can also sort of invade your mind. I guess sort of like chaos and like Warhammer, where you know it can sort of amplify these negative feelings and emotions and stuff that people have. So I don't know exactly how to say what I'm trying to say, but it sort of paints a little more simple, easy to follow picture of like, okay, well, this guy had all this, you know, hate and tragedy, a lot of it that was forced on him, you know, that was kind of artificially forced on him for this purpose, so that let him like sort of be a vessel for the dark side to then
Like
amplify that.
yeah, it's like roids for his feelings.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
Yeah, it's like they shot him up with steroids for hate, and now he's just a hate machine.
Dooku line from this. He said, "Are you up for the challenge of putting your hate to better use?" And then he also said, which I thought was a good counterpoint to a Yoda line, you know, because there's the Yoda line, "Do or do not, there is no try." I have a pair of sneakers with that line on it. Dooku says, "The task is only impossible because you have deemed it so." So he's basically saying the same idea in that line. I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I like that line a lot too. Like, you know, you can do whatever you want. Funny story, real off topic for that and everything. We have conversation cards here, you know, like on a date night, like we share a bottle of wine, have a conversation card, start conversation. One of the questions is like, you know, what if you could pick one skill that you would learn instantly, what would it be? And my answer was really like, I don't know. And it was anything I really put my mind to, I believe like I can do without having to do it instantly. And like, I would enjoy like the learning and find the mistakes, and because learning something instantly is great, but you don't understand the ins and outs of failure, and Ray goes, yeah, she goes, oh, so you can do everything. I was like, no, that's not the point. Like if I want to try to do something, like I don't want to learn something instantly. Like I would want to like do anything that's possible and do it myself, so you have a better knowledge of the actual skill.
See, I think it depends. Like things like so YouTube, for example. I mean, I mean, I could instantly learn, you know, video editing better or something. But I think that's an instance where like you know, like the failure is part of the journey. Like we're doing this because we like doing it. You know, I mean, we don't expect that we're ever going to like actually make money off of the podcast or YouTube or anything. You know, we just like doing it. We know that, and there's at least a small group of people that like to listen. I mean, hopefully that is more in the future, but we're just we're doing it to do it. So that's the thing where like learning some skill instantly wouldn't really be beneficial. But there's definitely skill. Like I feel like more physical skills where you don't really need to understand any concepts. It's just the physical skill would be. I would pick for that, like playing the guitar. Like if you could just pick up a guitar tomorrow and you knew exactly how to play it and could just hear your song on the radio and play the song, like I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean that's a skill I'd want to learn instantly. I wouldn't necessarily waste on that particular one, but like that type of skill, you know.
Yeah, but imagine you instantly learn to play guitar, right? And you're sitting down with one of your kids and like, you're a guitar virtuoso and they're like, "Oh, I want to learn." And you're like, "Well, I can't really teach you. I never learned myself. I just kind of picked it up." And then, they start making mistakes. You can't point out the mistakes they're making. You can't, you know what I mean? You just know how to play. You don't know the history behind,
Yeah,
playing, you know what I'm saying?
I was told how to play though. That would be
Yeah, I mean, you just miss a lot of that bonding moment with your kids. You're like, no,
Yeah,
I'm good.
we got other things. It's fine. I thought it was funny in this episode. It's Anakin says he tends to be popular with the ladies. Like, really? You're not Obi-Wan? That line doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, you're not popular with the ladies. Like, yeah, if the ladies tell you to do stuff, but you get it done. But I mean, like, you're kind of you ruin the entire galaxy over one woman you met when you were 10.
Yeah, exactly. He's honestly the worst with the ladies. I don't know. I feel like because we see in this episode too that Obi-Wan actually gets angry at Mother Talzin, which I thought was interesting. I feel like you rarely see that, and it worked. He pulled out the like intimidate card, and it actually was successful, which was which was cool. But I don't know. I feel like we have not had a serious Anakin episode in too long. Like I feel like Anakin has become like the comic relief. Like we rarely see him. And when we see him, he's just making jokes. Like it's been since it's probably been since the episodes. What were those like horror episodes from last episode? I now like all the names of everything.
Yeah, went to Geonosis. Yeah.
I think it's really been since Geonosis that we've seen like a really serious Anakin episode, right?
Yeah, well, this season we're 13 episodes in, and like, I mean, the first 2 episodes dealt with like the clone troopers, but I mean, this season really hasn't dealt with the Clone Wars, so we don't actually have to watch Anakin lead a mission.
Yeah, it's just kind of weird, because he's obviously one of the main characters. The other thing too, this episode was underwhelming, not because of the episode, but just I guess there was probably a way to do this, but to make it interesting. But I wish I could have watched this episode in a vacuum. Like if I didn't know anything else, like if I had never seen anything else about Star Wars, and the Clone Wars were the first thing I ever watched, which they would probably be friggin' awesome if that were the case. If you never watch anything else about Star Wars and you just watched the Clone Wars, because like you wouldn't know where Anakin was going, you wouldn't know where Dooku was going, like you wouldn't know any of this stuff. It would be this would be even better. But
you would have to watch Animal the Menace and then the Clone Wars cartoons.
Yeah, exactly. If you never watched Star Wars and you watch Star Wars in chronological order, like that would be awesome. But no, I wish I could have watched this in a vacuum because I mean you're watching and you're like, well, we know Dooku doesn't die, so like I don't know, like whatever's going to happen, I guess. I mean, in my head, I assumed like, oh, I guess Asajj is going to just die. He was just like a one-off like story arc character. So that was like a little bit like that kind of ruined the episode a little bit. Like there probably was a way I'm sure to do it that didn't revolve around whether Dooku lived or died, where you could have made it more interesting. But I don't know. That took me out of the episode a little bit, just knowing the overall story,
Yeah. Well, I'm glad they didn't just introduce this broken character and then like kill him off right away. Like I'm really glad like he got away and then he goes back to Mother Talzin and she's like, "You just go find your brother." And you're like, "Oh, okay." They keep his arc alive. So I like that a lot.
Or like, kill Count Dooku and then like in an opening credit crawl of a future thing, just be like, Count Dooku's back.
Wait, what?
I mean, not that they would ever do that in Star Wars. Maybe put him laughing in a trailer like a few months before that.
Well,
Yeah,
that's all I got for these episodes.
yeah, I think so.
I mean, I like, I understand your criticism of the episodes that, like, Dooku, you know, we know he's not going to die, and Ventress could have died, but I did like the episodes, and I thought like there was good action. Like it was a change up from all the politics. It was, it was about fighting for your life and killing and stuff like that. So it was a good change of pace for the show.
I agree. I did like these episodes. I just wish I liked them more because they were really good episodes. But like I said, I think it's kind of hard when like the main driver of tension is sort of not there.
Yeah. So all right. Well, that's it. All I have. So thanks for listening to this week's Whole Week Costa. For Kev, I'm Jay. Go check our podcast out at Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. We have a backlog over 100 episodes. They're all over the place. So give us a listen. Thanks for listening.